Hello, hello, hello. I thought I would take a look at this website with y'all. I just found out about it recently. I think it launched not all that long ago, and it seems really unpopular for how fantastic it is, or at least within my friend group. Not a lot of people had heard of it. It's called Explorables. They're explorable explanations, and basically the idea is to take some sometimes quite complicated concepts and turn them into interactive games, maybe not quite games, but other types of experiences. So let's like dive right into it. I love how they do this, that the first time you open it up, it just gives you three random ones, three blue, one brown, which is a fantastic YouTube channel that is a really great way to learn about some math concepts. Collaborates with this site. We've got Introduction to A star, which is a pathfinding algorithm that I've actually used in the past. Way, way, way a long time ago, me and a friend were trying to make a tactical RPG, and we used A star to figure out how to move the characters through various tiles and stuff. It's kind of neat. Trigonometry for games, making a homing rocket, or visualizing quaternions. These are all fine. Let's load three more though. How to tune a guitar, that's kind of cool. Let's learn about waveforms, an interactive guide to waves and harmonics. That seems kind of interesting. Let's remove more quaternions from every 3D engine. An introduction to geometric algebra. Ooh, this is some like really high level stuff. This is the stuff that my math friends do. Geometric algebra. No, they do algebraic geometry. Is that different? That's algebraic geometry is what I always hear them talk about. Test tube games, games about physics. Interactive documentary on the mathematical majesty of viruses. A hackathon to obtain an idea through play. It's all over the place. It looks like Explorables maybe has been around for a long time, since 2018, which only makes it sadder that I haven't heard about it, that people aren't talking about this more. What else we got? Interactive textbooks on earth science for iPad. Well, we don't have an iPad. Ooh, an interactive guide to alternative voting systems. That sounds interesting. Let's start with this one. I don't know how long it'll take. As soon as I realized how cool this was, I was like, I gotta make a video about this. So I haven't actually even finished one of them. Nikki Case is the main designer of this. They also have a website, Ncase, that also has a few of these types of experimental learning experiences. Okay, so let's see what this does. It's not about the 2016 US election, not just that anyways. So this came out in December 2016. First, I need to explain a weird glitch in our voting system. Let's say there are two candidates, Stephen Square and Tracy Triangle, on a couple political axes. For example, left versus right, globalist versus nationalist. Let's also say there's a voter who simply votes for whoever's political position is closest. What would that look like? So here's where the interaction starts. Isn't this cute? Oh, I just love it. So it makes a lot of sense. We can change their positions, and it's always going to vote for whoever's closest. If we wanted to simulate the American political spectrum, it's like this and this. And I'm like usually over here. So I got to figure out who can possibly help me. It's a tough choice. Triangle's got some sharp points, but square understands more sides. Ha ha. Last, in the end, you can only vote for one. Of course, there's more than just one voter in an election. Let's simulate what an election would look like with 100 plus voters. Drag the candidates and the voters around. To move voters, drag the middle of the crowd. Watch how that changes the election. So here we can see our live updating total. Can we still change? Yeah. All right. Seems fine. Again, given that we're often in this type of situation. A little difficult. America right now I think looks kind of like this. No, sorry. I have this. It's more like this. Yeah. Let's consider a different election. Say Tracy Triangle is already beating Stephen Square in the polls, and the third candidate, Henry Hexagon, sees this. Inspired by her success, Hexagon swoops in and takes a political position close to triangles. Now you'd think giving the voters more of what they want should result in a better choice, or at least not result in a worse choice. Well, but Henry Hexagon is a spoiler. This is something that will sometimes happen in elections, where two candidates that are quite similar split a similar populace. Okay. So, but if, so right now, triangle is winning, but if hexagon moves too close to triangle's territory, square wins. So even though more people like one of these two that are close together, square, who has less favor overall, it's kind of cute. Stephen Square, our least popular candidate, now wins. It's because when you have two good candidates, they steal votes from each other, letting a bad third candidate win. The spoiler effect, yeah. Most famous real-world example of this was in 2000 when Ralph Nader stole votes from Al Gore, letting George Bush win. Well, also the fact that Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida, and Florida was tasked with the recount over ballots that were already very poorly designed, leading a lot of old retirees to accidentally vote for some fringe third-party candidate when they were thinking they were voting for the Democratic Al Gore. Sorry, this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, and it should be a pet peeve for all of you. Because of that, we ended up in the Iraq War, a disastrous military quagmire that has cost trillions and trillions of dollars and an uncountably high number of lives. Well, you can count it, but it makes you depressed. Anyways, yeah, the spoiler. That's right. If you have 16 establishment nominees, they all go for the same pool, whereas Trump had the entirety of the fringe pool to himself. Neat, neat. Johnson, Stein, this is the Libertarian candidate, this is the Green Party candidate, and I don't know who this is. This is some even more fringe third party. Not about the 2016 US election. It's about designing a democracy that people can trust. Full half Americans did not vote, yeah. 20% said their candidates were untrustworthy and voted for them anyways. Okay. So, how do we solve this? I've always been a big fan of runoff voting, where you can say, triangle is my first choice, but hexagon is my second choice. And that this gets more weight, but this also contributes, such that all of the people who put triangle as their first choice, all of these people, let's say they also get like a half vote for hexagon, and vice versa. And the square people, their first choice is obviously square, but their second choice has to be one of these two. And all of that combined will easily make one of these two more popular than square. So there's still somewhat of a spoiler effect, but I think that's just kind of how it has to be. But at the very least, you can indicate that you want someone on this area and not some person that you haven't even considered to sneak in and take it. The problem with runoff voting is that it's too complex, and I wish I could dismiss that as people infantilizing the voting base, but you know, I can't trust them. I genuinely can't trust them. Simpler ballots have baffled people before. More basic ballots have baffled people before. Now it's more alliterative. Nice. Yes. Give us citizens more choices, better choices. Be daunting as fixing campaign finance or gerrymandering. Oh my gosh, or proportional representation. Oh, these are big ones too. Maybe they'll, I know they have one on gerrymandering. That was the first one I started doing. I was like, wow, this is really neat. And hence we're making this video now. Require changing a piece of paper and how we count those pieces of paper. The idea is not the most important thing. It won't solve everything. There's a first step to give us the biggest bang for the buck. Build a better ballot. What are the alternatives? Yes. So in Canada, we have first past the post, which is a very, very flawed electoral system. Most people seem to agree. And the Liberal Party, when they won in 2015? Yeah, 2015. They promised, we're going to put an end to first past the post. We're going to change it to some other more proportional, more representative ballot system. And they did all of these town halls, they ran all of these surveys, they solicited opinions all over the place. I actually helped with one of these because I was doing a degree in government stuff at the time. So I helped collect people's opinions on it and stuff. And I was actually pretty excited. It's like, whoa, we're actually getting campaign reform. We're getting electoral reform. And then they were just like, yeah, we're not going to do it. And my feeling was that they knew that the biggest thing that was keeping them in power instead of the NDP, which is the slightly, well, not even slightly, the significantly more leftist Canadian political party, is that a lot of people strategically vote for the Liberals instead of the NDP because they don't think the NDP has the popularity to win the overall election, and they would rather have the Liberals win than the Conservatives. So a system that has like second choice, for example, would eliminate this kind of strategic advantage that they have, allowing all of those people that fall into that camp to happily vote NDP first, Liberals second, right? Still allowing themselves a no way conservative outcome, but giving the NDP a much, much better chance of taking control. And I think they didn't like that. I think when they realized that, they kind of backed down. So yeah, why would they? Why would they? Hey! Ha ha! Look! I didn't read the rest of the paragraph. They were just talking about it. Update. Ha ha! Nope. Anyways, and then some kind of all the infamous impossibility theorem by Kenneth Arrow. I don't know about this. This is interesting. When voters have 3 or more distinct alternatives, no ranked voting electoral system can convert the ranked preferences of individuals into a community-wide, complete and transitive ranking, while also meeting a specified list of criteria. Unrestricted domain, no non-dictatorship. I don't know what this is. Independent of a relevant alternative. Oh, well, whatever. Let's just move on. Some can be more fair than others. Doesn't apply to all voting systems. It only applies to voting systems where you rank candidates. See some voting candidates where you don't rank candidates. Okay, well this is first past the post. This is what we have. So right now we can see the ballot changing, and whoever gets the most votes wins. And first past the vote post refers to as soon as you've counted enough votes that someone has either A, just a strict majority, that is over 50% of the votes, then that party forms the majority government, or as it often happens in Canada, they don't get over 50% of the votes, but they get enough that it's clear that they're the largest of the plurality. They're going to get the most votes of any party, and that makes them the minority government. 2 good candidates can make the election go to a third bad candidate. Aha, yes. This is what I was talking about with NDP and the Liberal Party and stuff. How can we expect our elected officials to be honest when our voting system itself doesn't let us be honest? Yes. Just ranked voting. Ah, yes, yes. So this is the one that I personally think is pretty sweet. So let's say we have 2 parties that are, let's make them leftist parties, to more accurately reflect the situation in Canada. So we have the Liberals here, the NDP here, well, we should swap these, because the Liberals are red. The Liberals here, the NDP here, and the Conservatives here. So I would be like this. And this would go well for me. All the people like me. We would certainly not get a Conservative government. We'd have their best shots of getting an NDP government. That's what I care about most. In that order. Several different ways to count these types of ballots. Instant runoff. Yeah, so this is where you rank everybody on that same ballot. Update. Never mind. I didn't know that some states used it in local elections. San Francisco too. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't know that. Alternative vote. See, that is selfish naming. Count up the number 1 choices. Someone has more than 50%, they win. If not, eliminate the last place loser. Run a new round minus the loser. So, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. I never really thought about this before. I thought it would be more like points. That your first place gets like 50 points, your next place gets 25 points, your next place gets 12.5 points. But this actually makes a lot more sense. So the least popular candidate falls off, all of the people who voted for that least popular candidate now have their second choice counted as their first vote. Is a much simpler. Simply, yes. So this is basically what I'm saying with the points. Lives in Slovenia and a bunch of tiny islands in Micronesia. Condorcet method. We're going to simulate an election between every pair of candidates using the... Ooh! Only being used by nerds. This is cool, though. I like this. I really like this. Plus, it's very interesting if they release all of that information. This candidate beats this candidate. The matchup spread. You get a full matchup spread between all the candidates. That's sweet. That's sweet. You can even have it color-coded between red and green, just like you do fighting game matchup charts. That's sweet. Voting systems where you rank candidates, when the Kenneth era proved would always be unfair in some big way. Voting systems where you don't rank candidates. So I'm like vaguely familiar with some of these, but I can't even think of any to name right now. So let's find out. Who do you approve of? Pick as many as you like. So anybody in this circle, you're giving a vote to. That's kind of interesting. So again, we'll try to set it up like Canada. I would be, oh no, yeah. I would be here. And I guess I would approve of the Liberals. Sure. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this, I guess. It sucks that I can't signal that I approve more of the NDP than the Liberals. But I suppose this is also kind of a meta-level strategic thing. If we were using this sort of voting, I would expect there to be more people that are in this zone that end up giving a vote to both, as opposed to first past the post, I don't know, I tried to say the acronym, where I would think that there's a lot of people like this that end up going liberal. Because I know that a lot of people are like double voting like this, I would feel more comfortable not needing to vote liberal in order to prevent the conservatives from winning. And I could personally just go like this, you know? Knowing that this is safer in this scenario. So that's kind of interesting too. Vote has never been a single check mark. Your vote was always the whole ballot. Right. You have one vote and then you have a bunch of anti-votes. That's basically what you're doing. A more expressive voting system, why not score voting? Ooh, okay, all right, I kind of like this one too. Again, kind of complex, and I guess you just add up the ratings. Two candidates can have the same score. So let's, again, this is just kind of fun. We'll set it up like Canada. And I could go like this. Maybe more like this. Yeah, I'd be happy with this. I would be happy making this my ballot. How can we tell if these alternatives are actually better? What glitches might they have? Which voting system, if any, can we say is the best? Let's simulate them. So now I'm assuming we're going to get a ton more voters, and we're going to see if it actually represents what the voters seem to want. Switch between the 6 different voting systems. Okay. So, in first past the post, we have square winning. Too bad. In instant runoff voting, all these people are voting for triangle first, all these people are voting for hexagon first, and all these people are voting for square first, and either triangle or hexagon second, depending on kind of where this falls. So in this situation, hexagon loses. Okay, this is cool. Oh, square wins because I dragged them a little over here. But yes, this gets a triangle victory, so that's good. Borda is the nerdy one, right? No. Borda is the Micronesia one, where you count them up like a golf score. Nice. So triangle wins. It has the most number 1s and number 2s versus number 3s, because all of these people are number 3 for square. This is the nerdy one, all the head-to-heads. Cool. I still think this one is the best, but I guess it would be It's not that complicated for people ranking them. It's still just a simple ranking. For actually conveying the results to people, they might get confused. Because in Swiss or in round robin pools, which often run at like fighting game tournaments and stuff, it's basically this system. You have all the matchups play out, and people get so confused. And there's always like, what do we do in this sort of tiebreaker? What do we do if that's also a tie? Should we count game counts? Should we look at the head-to-head between those two players to figure out? I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but that's like just something else to figure out. But it's surprising to me the number of people who can't read those sorts of matrices. And admittedly, I've screwed up entering into them too, and it's very embarrassing. But a lot of people, they're just like, well, what does this mean? Like, what am I looking at here? It's not that difficult to explain, but on like a news channel broadcasting to a million people, maybe it is that difficult to explain. Most approvals wins. So there's like a radius invisible around all of these. These candidates don't approve of anybody. Let's go. But here it's pretty difficult to make square win. We have to make the center move significantly to the left of the middle. Score. Interesting. So it's interesting to me that like in some of these, like let's leave it right in the center with this setup. Never mind. First, I thought for some reason that some of them triangle won and some of them hexagon won. If we spread them out a little bit more. Ooh, if you spread them out too much, then square starts winning. This is all very interesting. But if you take any of these a little bit closer to the center. Okay, whatever. The last, and getting rid of one glitch, some of these alternative voting systems creates other glitches. For some, the cure is even worse than the disease. I'm going to move the voters even closer to them. Obviously, if a candidate is already winning an election and becomes even more popular, they should still win afterwards, right? Okay, so why wouldn't this work? Instant runoff. So a lot of people are putting Tracy as number 1, Tracy Triangle. They're putting one of these two as number 2. So one of them loses. Oh, and then the number 2's... Okay, so it's like Tracy is number 1 overwhelmingly. But I don't know, let's just find out. The point is that we should be able to find out. Okay, yeah. It's like the number 2's are quite split. So as soon as we start moving it, even though Tracy has the most number 1 still, here Tracy gets over 50, so it's just over. Oh, that's quite interesting. That as we get more people who had, so it's like this wedge of people who have square first, hexagon second, triangle third. As soon as square drops, all of those convert into hexagon votes. Whamp whamp. Yeah. Move the votes closer, the loser changes. So now squares eliminated first instead of hexagon eliminated in the first. Popular for winning candidate to lose by becoming more popular. That's how they're going to get Bernie. They'll change the DNC primary nominations to be based on instant runoff, so that the more popular Bernie gets, the more he loses. Eesh. Couple confirmed examples. Monotonicity criterion. No winner is harmed by upranking, no losers helped by downranking. This is very interesting. I hadn't heard of this before. Mayoral election. Bob Kiss could have been defeated by raising some of the ballots. Ooh, that's spooky. It's kind of concerning that I had studied instant runoff voting before in the context of these town halls for the government, and I had never learned about this. It was a little spooky. The glitch would happen 14.5% of the time. It's possibly worst. There's no transparency. There's no way to be like, okay, well, I can recognize that I'm being a spoiler. So in the interest of preserving at least some of our shared ideals, I'm going to drop off. Instant runoff, you try that sort of stuff, and you could actually just be sabotaging the candidate you're trying to bolster. What about the second most popular? Board account. Move a losing candidate closer to another losing candidate. Ah, yeah, okay. I can see what would happen here. Triangle's winning, but then the combined ones and twos of these crews beats out Triangle's split of 1 and 3s, right? Triangle gets a lot of 1s, but then also gets the most 3s, whereas these guys are only getting 1s and 2s among this crowd. Okay. Okay. A reverse spoiler effect. One bad candidate can help another bad candidate by moving closer. Oh, you know what? This would just lead to a plague. A plague! Where you would swarm around the candidate you wanted with a bunch of other candidates whose only purpose is just to drive Triangle lower and lower and lower in the tiering until Triangle is getting like 16 points. Just because this crowd only wants candidates in this crowd. And it doesn't really matter which one of them wins, as long as you can spoil Triangle. These are simpler, more transparent than instant runoff. Because, yeah, you can still see these scores, and then you can put together this narrative quite easily. How does Condorcet compare? Imagine several groups of voters with totally different centers. Yeah, this is much more accurate, for sure. As a candidate beats all the other candidates in one-on-one races, but polarized voters end up with a rock, paper, scissors like loop. Right, right. And this is the dilemma that comes up a lot with round-robin pools in tournaments and stuff. How do you break this up? I like doing the head-to-head, just because it's really hype. You just, I don't know. No, the head-to-head doesn't work here. Never mind, I don't know. It just crashes. Alright, how do we make it that nobody wins? This group is split like this. Yeah, there we go. There's no winner. In a 1v1, I think it's oh, it's easy. No winner. Right, right, of course. In this one it seems quite nice. It doesn't seem like there's anything wrong here. We can try to make like spoilers. But I think this is still fine. Square wins here. But as soon as we cross this line, as soon as we're closer to triangle, it seems fine. But yeah, this is where things get messy. Let's simulate the Canadian system again. We have NDP far left, Lib central left, Conservative rightish. In America, all of these are like over here, and the American parties fall over here. I mean, like, comparing America to Canada. So it's like this or something. I'd say there's like voters like me, who are just like ultra leftist. They're over here. There's a lot of libs, and then there's a lot of like center-right libs. So this is, dang, we still can't beat the liberals. But it's not that bad. Maybe it's more like maybe my voting block is more like this. It doesn't matter. Dang. All right. Well, fine. The election falls back to another method by board account. Get the ranking. Always be unfair, glitchy in some way. What about voting systems that don't use ranking? Approval and score. Couldn't come up with a simulation to throw their flaws because in theory they don't have many flaws. Ah, strategic voters use approval and score voting yeah, of course. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because, like, think about this, the meta-strategic voting I was talking about. This is exactly what I said I would do, right? I assumed that, like, a lot of people would do this so that I was safe to do this. But I'm basically just becoming the problem because if everybody voted like that, then very easily we can just have a conservative government again. So it's like I'm putting faith in the idea that people will use these systems fairly, which is, yeah, true. I guess it's better. Proven can be game that goes double for instant runoff. Sure. What was a chart showing the result of 2.2 million simulations? A huge variety of scenarios were tested. All honest voters, all strategic voters, half honest, half strategic. This is pretty cool. This is really cool. From electology.org, they made a nice. It's always interesting to me whenever there's like a gigantic scientific paper behind something, tons and tons of simulation, tons and tons of research all put together, and it results in just like a line. I don't know. It's like it reminds me of. So I have like a lot of mathematician friends, and when I was living with some of them, we had these gigantic whiteboards in the living room um, that they would go and work on assignments and stuff. And sometimes I would just be like bumming around in the kitchen, just connected to the living room or doing whatever, and I would like overhear and observe. And I remember there was like this long discussion that I couldn't follow at all about some problem that was just on an exam. And then my friend, don't worry about that. My friend went up to the whiteboard and said like, I think it's like this. And he just drew a triangle with arrows like this. And everyone was like, oh, oh, yeah, oh, right. Just, this will stick with me forever. Like, I have no idea what this means. I think it's just like saying that probably they had like a bunch of different states that they were talking about. And they couldn't figure out if it was like this goes to here, this goes to here, this just goes to itself. If like stuff like that, and then he was just like, "Oh, it's like this." I don't know. I think it's so funny. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, let's see this other thing. Simplicity, random winner. Random winner. Very rarely leads to any group satisfaction at all. I'm assuming this is like the range of satisfaction. Like some people aren't that satisfied, but some people are super satisfied. And then everyone falls somewhere in this range. For the average election, the average election, like everyone is super dissatisfied except for a tiny group of people. Oh, sorry, strategic voters and honest voters. Oh, okay, that's quite interesting. So strategic voters are always less satisfied than honest voters. Oh no. As a serial strategic voter, that kind of hurts. The further to a right a voting method is, the more it maximizes happiness for the voters. The higher up the voter method is, the simpler it is. And a bar's width shows the range of a voting system's performance given different ratios of honest to strategic voters. Oh, okay. Okay, I see what they're saying. So if it's all honest voters, then the Condorcet method goes this far, it's this much satisfaction. If it's all strategic voters, then it's this much satisfaction for those voters. Okay, so it's a little different than what I thought. It's not like all these voters simultaneously exist. It's like every single slice is a different ratio of the two. Okay, this makes a lot of sense to me. So what can we take away from this? Score voting seems pretty sweet, and the strategic voting is not as low as I thought it would be. Because here strategic voting it would lead to the exact same spoilers as plurality voting. So even though that there could be spoilers in a lot of these situations, it's clearly not as many as... The thing is, like, when they talk about strategic voting, I need to know, like, are they talking about strategic voting where we know each other's preferences? So therefore, I can kind of like prisoner's dilemma my way into thinking, well, there's going to be enough people who put the party that I want as my like compromise party at 2 stars, and enough people that love the compromise party that will put my party at 2 stars, that I'm safe to put my party as 5 stars and the compromise party at 1 star. You know, like that kind of assumption. Because to me, that sort of assumption would put more like a, I don't know. Let's just see what they have to say. I excuse me. Halfway through, like trying to explain that, I kind of confused myself. But I hope it maybe it makes sense to anybody who's still watching this video. First thing to note is that strategic voting makes voters less happy than honest voting in all voting systems. Any one person can be strategic by shutting up for others, but if everybody is strategic, nobody can hear anybody. And that's basically what it is. When I strategically vote, it's basically me saying, given that I know all of you suckers can't help yourselves, I'm going to influence the system as much as I can. I'm going to make my vote count for as much as I can to get about to have my highest priority outcomes come about. Mostly honest voters, score voting is the best. We have mostly strategic votings, then both approval and score voting are the best. These different voting systems play out in real life. Or can we? No, we can't. Ah. Right. Oh. Whoa. Gary Johnson is the libertarian guy. Clinton wins IRV. Trump wins score. First off, come on. Let's fix this. This is America. It's like this. This being the left and this being the right. No, just kidding. Well, no, I'm not kidding, but I'd like to see how this works. Clinton wins immediate runoff voting. Yeah, that makes sense. First past the post. But Trump actually won first past the post. But that's because of the electoral collage. Clinton won the popular vote. So that's fair, I guess. This is surreal to me. I guess because so many people take the Libertarian candidate over the Republican candidate. Because they clearly haven't read very much of the Libertarian candidate. Well, no, that's a little unfair. I can conceive of liberal voters who prefer the Libertarian Party's dovish war policies and a few other things, but it's just a few things. It doesn't really make sense. A lot of American voters don't make sense. Whoa. Condorcet, Gary Johnson wins too. That's insane. That's actually so insane. Okay, approval. Weird. What voting method do you like most now? 3 or 4 classes. Give me a score out of 3 or 4, not... Oh, okay. So, the idea of scoring a candidate in like multiple categories, perhaps, would maybe make more honest voters, simply because it's like a lot more, I don't know, there's more of like a moral imperative, I think, to be honest when a nuanced question is being asked to you, rather than a situation where you can just spam 5 or spam 1. I don't know if that's what they're talking about. The problem is, of course, that you would never ever get agreement on what those categories should be. And I certainly do not trust any governing body to come up with those questions. Oh, man, I don't know. All right, an open letter. Such a disappointment. We never got rid of first past the post. Better than first past the post. Definitely go for instant runoff. Still has a glitch. Yes. It's a false choice. Voting methods are both simple and expressive. Personally, I'm rooting towards score voting. Score voting seems pretty nice. The fact that Trump still won in score voting seems like almost a knock against it. But, I mean, that's just what America deserved. Like, that's what... Even though he lost the popular vote, it's like telling that people really didn't like Hillary Clinton. And, you know, there's a lot of good reasons to not like Hillary Clinton. America got what it deserved. Proven voting is more practical, even simpler. Already work with existing voting machines. As long as we have this discussion, yes. People need to keep talking about this. Canada's not talking about it anymore. In the previous election, it wasn't even a platform that was like majorly focused on. The Liberals didn't talk about it at all. I believe it was part of the NDP platform, but it wasn't a significant part. It seems like they kind of let the narrative die. And I think, I don't know, that was probably wise for the NDP to be like, voting reform, when people seem to have given up on it, when people seem to trust that the Liberals looked into it and found that it was unfeasible for whatever reason. Personally, I think they just found that it would probably cause them to lose. I don't know. Yeah. Nah. Yes. Support for democracy has plummeted over the last several generations. Wow. Wow. That's kind of freaky. I think this is in response to the needs and the wants and the pains and the hopes and the dreams of your people. Yeah. Okay. This was good. This was powerful. Ooh, up to 5 candidates. Oh boy. All right. Let's make Canada. We're going to try to make Canada as best we can. So we have the Green Party, the NDPs, Bloc Quebec. No, this is Conservatives. This is Liberals, and now you guys can be Bloc Québécois. So what usually happens, we have the Conservatives. Oh, there's the PPC too. But forget the PPC. Literally, let's all just try to forget the PPC. And then we have, so we'll put the NDP. What is this other axis? We have to figure out what this other axis is. I guess kind of libertarianism versus statism, we can say. So the NDP is a little more, this is going to be statist. NDP is a little more statist. Conservative Party is very statist. Well, they masquerade as being more, I guess they're more in the middle. Liberal Party also kind of statist, much more central. What did I say this was? Bloc Québécois. Also pretty leftist. The independence of Quebec, I guess you could say, is like kind of a more libertarian stance. It's definitely like reducing big government insofar as you take the second most populous province out of said big government. And then the Green Party is kind of like this. I think this is decent. It's not perfect. You can nitpick, but I think this is decent. Okay, so my voting group is like here. Seems like a lot of Canadians are here. And I wish you could make this group smaller, because then there's like the fringe that are like way over here. But I think this group is smaller than this group. I genuinely think so. If I didn't think that, I would lose my friggin' mind. Let's put them, I don't know, here? I think it's probably something like this. Which means that I'm probably not going to be able to make myself happy with this. Okay, so this is first past the post, and this is generally what happens. The Liberals win. I guess it's a little more like this. Because yeah, the Liberals win a minority government. And then it's either the NDP or the Conservatives, kind of just depending on how centrist the Conservatives are looking, how centrist the NDP candidate is looking, how much of this block actually comes out to vote. Yeah, it's something like this. It's generally something like this. These are the elections we've had the last 2 cycles, basically. There was a liberal majority government, the previous government, but, you know, something like this. Okay. So, what happens in instant runoff? First round, Bloc Québécois gets eliminated. It seems about right. Then the Green Party gets eliminated. Seems about right. Then, this is where it gets beautiful. We get rid of the Conservatives. Let's go. See, my problem is this group isn't anywhere near as big as this group. This group, I think, is smaller than this group, but they're pretty close. And then this group is by far the biggest. Hexagon wins. Okay, but I'm a little happier with this, because then I can just proudly vote NDP every time. Borda, Hexagon wins. Yeah, I don't think I can make myself happy with this. Hexagon wins. Nice. Approval, Hexagon wins. Of course. Score, Hexagon wins. Well, that's about all we can do. We spent 45 minutes playing with this, but I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. I like the substantial credits page here. This is pretty neat. I think electoralism is quite interesting. Voting systems, democracy. How do we make this stuff actually work? How do we make ourselves happy? Things like that. This looks like a pretty early one. This one came out just after 2016. The site has tons and tons and tons of them now that I think are much more recent. So they're probably going to get even more crazy and interactive and stuff. But I was impressed. I thought this was really neat. I hope you did too. Please go and play around with it. Please let me know. What are your voting systems? I haven't really talked about politics very much on this channel. I think this is like an okay situation because I wasn't really harping on about the issues or anything. I just wanted to talk about how elections often go, and then it felt dishonest to try to present myself as totally neutral when I'm sure my bias would leak out anyways. So I talked about how I would like elections to go and my own strategic voting patterns and stuff. But if you want to unsubscribe from this channel because you found out that I'm an ultra-leftist type, then be my guest. Or rather, cease to be my guest. But for the rest of you, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.